Hi, good afternoon, Deepak. How are you? Welcome to the podcast of Joy of Performing.
Hi, Guy. Gaurav, how are you doing? All well. It's great to connect with you after a long time. We have been logging for this, we have been logging for this discussion for a long, but it happened to happen today. So it's a great day for me. At least I have been able to connect with you.
Thank you. No, absolutely. The pleasure is ours and appreciate your time on this.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity, and let's look forward to a great discussion today.
Absolutely. Before diving into a very interesting topic, which is about performance productivity in the manufacturing space, and I know so much that you've spent almost 5 decades, being a professional as an HR and in manufacturing almost 3 decades, as we were speaking earlier. But why don't we, before we get into the nuances of the topic, in the manufacturing and how productivity, performance, AI, and other threads of this conversation. Why don't we get to know you a little more, Deepak a little more, and his background, and then we go from there. And also, maybe the second part is why did you choose to talk about manufacturing, or why is it interesting for you? Over to you.
Gaurav, I've been born and brought up in Delhi, and it's almost more than 68 years plus now. I'm going still very strong and very active in terms of my professional life. Invested around 30 years in manufacturing and 15 years plus in corporates. And for the last 5 years, I am into my own consulting, HR consulting, handling HR transformational projects with few companies. And my objective is to make sure that the organization uh, transform and deliver what is expected out of them in terms of the productivity, performance, growth, innovation, improvements. So I'm helping the organizations in these projects. I'm also getting into talent assessments, talent development, talent retention strategies to make things happen for the good so that the organization prosper and grow in the times to come. So that's my overall objective and why I've chosen manufacturing. All other industries, all other fields are very good, whether it's hospitality, banking, insurance, even infra for that matter, wherein I invested 15 years plus. They are all very interesting. But there are clear-cut roadmap and things happen of its own pace and there's not much of any challenges. But when it comes to manufacturing, our plans are very good. Our SOPs are well defined. Processes are well defined. Our roles are well defined. People say that they have KRAs are well defined, but honestly speaking, neither they are quantifiable, neither they are measurable at times. As a result, the performance dips, the processes fails. In spite of having excellent processes, we have not been able to get the results. And sometimes imperfect processes, rather no processes, but if the people are good, we can still get the best out of them. And it happens because people are aligned. So it's a very interesting journey which I had gone through. I said, okay, fine, let me talk about it more specifically. That's why I've chosen manufacturing because in spite of having all things set in place, we still not been able to deliver or expect what we expected out of it.
No, very interesting. Let me just take a cue from there, right? You've been in manufacturing for 30 years. You've been a professional HR, for 45 years now. And you would have seen many waves come and go, right? Many different frameworks come and go, many different processes, or even the way performance has been looked into or measured, right? In the last 30 years, what is it that has not been able to get it solved? Like there have been balanced scorecard and MBOs and OKRs and KRA KPIs, and then quarterly review and half yearly review and annual review. So much on L&D, so much technology has come into it. What do you think? Like, what are the three main things, according to you, that has still been an issue which has not been able to solve and still is an issue today in the present world of manufacturing?
Speaking, organizations are not working for it. They are very serious about it. But when we really get into the hierarchy, the moment after manager, when we speak to the people, we find that the purpose is not being cascaded down the line. The purpose is not defined. The objectives are not defined. The KRAs are very loosely tight. They are not frozen in terms of quantifiable, measurable, in terms of their review policies and everything. And most of the time, there's a lack of process ownership and accountability as well. Apart from that, There's a reality gap because there's a time pressure, there's a work pressure, and people were running against the time, and as such, they are not bothered about the quality. हर कोई अपने अपने function में they are good. Production want to maximize output, maintenance want to reduce the downtime, quality wants to improve the quality and minimize the defects. But at the end of the day, the organization is not being able to achieve more than 75 or 80% of their targets because each are independently working, they are not aligned. So the purpose and objective is missing somewhere.
Got it. And do you think, is it because the management doesn't have the time or doesn't give it that kind of an importance where they think that having that purpose be cascaded to the lowest level is important? Or in reality, we are talking about two audience in manufacturing, right? One is white collar and one is really blue collar people, and the difference is so much that, and you cannot really take that purpose down to the blue collar and make them aligned with it, and that problem is real. What do you think it is in reality?
In reality, in fact, the white collar so-called becomes a sandwich between the two, right? If you talk about the blue collars goes with working as per the SOPs, working as per the processes checklist, and they're not bothered about even if the better solutions are available around the table. They have fixed mindset. Because at the end of the day, they want to produce a particular number because everybody is focused on hitting the number. They are not bothered about anything else. If the focus is on hitting the numbers, what about the machine health? What about the employee health? What about the productivity numbers? Only one focus is there. Somewhat we have to produce this much. होता क्या है कि इस रेस के अंदर situation gets worsened day by day. Performance होती है, ऐसा नहीं performance नहीं होती है, but inconsistent होती है. I'll give you one live, very small example. मेरे बचपन में हमारे को we used to learn through these small stories which has been told by our grandparents. There was one construction going on a particular site, and everybody passes from that, and there's one individual who goes from every day to drop his son to the school. And on return, he used to find one individual to figure out as to what is he is doing actually, what is his job. And he picked up one day one of the laborer and asked him, what are you doing? He says, I'm putting brick over brick. I'm putting brick over brick. And when he noticed, neither the wall was in symmetrical, neither the wall was straight, because he was just putting brick over brick. This is what we call it processes or SOPs, right? Then he called up the another person. He says, what you are doing? And he said, I'm constructing a wall. You see the mindset. He says, I'm constructing a wall. As a result, what was happening is it was straightened, quality was little better, and still it is not been aligned because कहीं ना कहीं बीच बीच में टेढ़ी हो रही थी. Wall तो बन रही है, but and then he called the third one. He says, what are you doing? All are doing the same job. But he says, what are you doing? He says, I'm constructing a temple. When I'm constructing a temple, he's putting each and every brick and he's making sure that things are properly aligned, looks symmetrical, looks beautiful, and taken care of. So it's a mindset. काम भी सब लोग कर रहे हैं. किस माइंडसेट से, किस भावना से कर रहे हैं, क्या उनके दिमाग में है, क्या वो सोचते हैं इसके बारे में, gets aligned. As a result, the problem happens.
And it's just so simply but put so beautifully, Deepak, and I'm glad you did that, because the audience will, I've taken away something from this, and I'm sure the audience will take away a message from this as well. But if you go back, that is what the difference in a process versus a productivity and the performance is within these three examples. The first example for me is a process, brick over brick process, right? Second is creating that wall, productivity, making sure that you are productive and you're doing what is required to be done. And last one is performance, where you actually see just the bigger picture and that there is a direction to take and you need a destination to get to. So I think it's so beautiful put.
Better to properly, very live and correct example to put it across to explain you the difference, why the performance is not getting consistent in most of the places in spite of having the beautiful systems around, right?
So who is responsible according to you? Who is responsible? And if it's so simple, why is it that people focus so much on process and productivity, leaving that purpose, leaving that objective, leaving that direction, and just kind of keep on following the same thing over and over again? Why is it so difficult?
Yeah, in fact, performance breaks down both at managerial level and as well as leadership level, both. And sometimes it has become very difficult to pinpoint because the reasons are quite different. If I look at the managerial level, there's an inconsistent execution. Manager A comes, he drives the team in a particular way. When the shift closes, the gentleman comes, he drives the shift in his own perspective, his own way. So it's a culture and subcultures. One work culture and then there's a सब वर्क कल्चर, तो इनकंसिस्टेंट एग्जीक्यूशन हो जाती है. उसके अलावा फायर फाइटिंग, इनमें मॉर्निंग में प्लान करते हो मॉर्निंग मीटिंग में, बट आफ्टर हाफ एन आवर और आफ्टर 1 hour you see the people are closing all those points which has been discussed in the morning meeting and getting into the firefighting. So the objective is changed. And then there is a poor communication hierarchical because there are 4 or 5 layers of communication. And we are not being able to really explain the very purpose for which we are existing. Because the purpose of existence is our purpose only. Na?
Yeah.
अगर purpose objective ही नहीं हो, मेरा purpose of existence ही खत्म हो गया. And apart from that, there's a skill gap also. मैनेजरियल लेवल पे बहुत एक्टिवली प्ले, और अगर मैं लीडरशिप लेवल की बात करूं, वीक लीडर्स ऑलवेज हैव ए चैलेंज ऑफ क्रॉस फंक्शनल डिस्कशंस. क्रॉस फंक्शनल अलाइनमेंट डजंट हैपन. सम पीपल हैव ईगो पावर and he wants to drive the function in his own way, and some other function wants to drive the function in another way. Within the production team also, you see the store is managing the store in a different way, quality is doing their own way, maintenance is doing their own way, and then another function called research team and innovation and improvement team doing the things in their own way. So all are not working in tandem or in misalignment. As a result, the problems happen. And sometimes, as I said, the goals are not measurable, not quantifiable, because these goals, they talk about only the numbers. They don't talk getting into the details. But there are work and the around the work also, which is not being getting captured.
So, you've been a CHRO in the HR positions with big companies over the period of time. So, what have you done as in that situation or in that position? Did you take it up with your leadership and point out the gaps? Did you have that conversation with your managers and were able to solve it? Were there any technology that was used? Like, how do you solve this problem and how did you solve this problem when you were active in that position?
No, in fact, there are so many factors which has been contributing. One is that daily morning meeting, as I said, what we call it a sunrise meeting. Right? Once we do the sunrise meeting, we try to talk about how the last day was progressing. What are the challenges faced? What are the solutions provided? So we try to move from activity based to the ownership base so that the people take the ownership. And then we try to clarify if there are any gaps in terms of communication. What has been said, what has been understood, and what has been executed. If there is any gap, we'll try to rectify those gaps also. We convert strategy priorities into actionable points. Action 1, Action 2, Action 3, right up to the bottom line. All the blue collar, white collar, all are having clear color. जिसे हम कहते हैं ना chain of command. That chain of command is clearly defined. And we also define if there is any problem in any of the thing, how to resolve and how to go about it. That process is also being well defined. Then we try to do the horizontal alignment and vertical alignment, both. And then we try to understand if there are some priority gaps. Because if X comes in, he says, this is the priority. If B comes in, he says, he's the priority. We sit down together. भैया आप अपने priorities सारी आप define कर दो और let's pick up 1 or 2 further today. अगर time मिलेगा तो तीसरी करेंगे, नहीं तो पहली और 2 को attend करेंगे.
So interesting because, I've been an avid follower of this framework called OKR, Objective and Key Results. And I've read a lot, I've practiced it in my own organization. And today, there is one of the organizations that I'm a part of called Joy of Performing, right? And you know about that. And we are avid, passionate people for performance, right? And one of the framework that we use in job is OKRs. And this is exactly what it takes care of. We have customers in the manufacturing world. Right from, this is beautiful because right from outcome driven, building that collaboration, having that accountability, from the top to level, a horizontal collaboration, cross collaboration, people taking ownership, understanding priorities and cross collaborating those priorities for the outcome. So I think there are tools and there are frameworks like that. It's just how do we put it together and kind of make it work for an organization and for its people.
I'll sum it up in one line. The biggest challenge as of today, or the biggest gap, is not the intent. Intent is very clear for everybody. The problem is of translation plus alignment and plus reinforcement. This is the area where we fail.
But tell me something, sometimes it's easier said than done, right? When you are not in the story and you're looking at from a distance, maybe you can look at better. But once you're in the story yourself, there is so much happening that it's hard to kind of take a back step and look into it yourself. Do you think that, big manufacturing firms, businesses, do you think they should be managing this internally and handling it internally? Or some of them or most of them at least should be interacting with professionals or consultants like yourself, and that can help for them to have an extra set of eyes to look into it and manage it for them. What is a better way to go about it?
I think it's very important to clarify because, as I said, the KRA itself is a let loose kind of situation, or whatever you may call it, a balance scorecard or OKR, whatever you may call it. They're not clear. Honestly speaking, if you talk about, they just talk about the overall number, but how part is always missing.
I think sometimes even the why is missing.
Why is missing? That's what I'm saying. Effective middle layer, the effective middle layer, which has to act as an amplifier of strategy, is completely missing because they need to amplify now. The middle layer itself is a missing link in the whole process. So as a result, there is a problem. We have to make sure that the process health indicators are in place. We have to make sure that the leading indicators are in place. We have to be very clear as to what is the ground level situation. Is somebody visiting on the shop floor, or most of the time they are sitting in the room itself? And what are the cross-functional metrics, end-to-end flow? They are not working in silos. And one has to look at the qualitative signals also, because early success factors need to be identified. I'll give you one live example. We have taken additional line into our fold. And once we did, we try to replica what is happening in the other line. So that is what benchmarks available and we implemented. And then we had talked to the whole team together. For the next 20 days or 3 weeks, you identify 3 improvements in your line to make it happen, and we will incentivize you. And since these people are working on the same shop floor, on other line, they came onto this line now to get transferred. So they know where are the pain points. They have started working on low-hanging fruits. So every day they have come out with 3 or 4 suggestions to make improvement, and they are part of implementing those improvements as well. And we made them, okay, fine, now there will be no going back. Once you implement it, make sure that there's consistency and there's a sustenance of whatever the improvements you have put in place. So over the next 20 days, you won't imagine more than 50%, 50 improvements have been implemented on the third line as compared to line 1 and 2. And then we asked line 1 and 2, why don't you catch up with this?
Yeah.
Are you getting your point? So then we created a healthy competition between the lines. And we said, okay, fine, we'll distribute laddus if you achieve the targets and maintain the particular level of improvements. And you won't imagine, invariably, the local halwai got benefited. And every third day, there is some sweet distribution, either in line 1 or either in line 2 or either in line 3. Because people started thinking, they're not putting brick over brick. If we allow them to use brick over brick, they will do. But we said, start thinking around. And once they start thinking around, they will make improvements. And this is what has happened. The change has happened. I'll give you one more example. We used to have 2% rejection in terms of glass bulbs. We were into picture tubes. And most soft part of the picture tube is the tube, which is on the backside of the picture tube. That's the most sensitive part. And people used to hold it like this from the neck, and the neck used to get broken because there is a weight of 3.5 kg or 4 kg. Tube size is 3.5, and the moment you pick up the neck, it's of glass and get breakdown. And as a result, there is a junk rejection. So more than 2.5% rejection. And once we started talking to the people, and there were certain accidents also happened because of that. Because once the glass broken, people got injuries also. So you won't imagine, you will be surprised. One of the guy came in and he says, "Sir, आप मेरे को एक मौका दीजिए." मैंने कहा क्या करोगे? कहता साहब कल मॉर्निंग में जब मॉर्निंग मीटिंग होगी आप हमको 10 मिनट का टाइम, we want to do a fashion show. I said, what are you saying? Fashion show? We are into production, manufacturing. We are saying fashion show. He says, okay, fine, don't worry. क्या किया, यू वॉन्ट इमेजिन, सेम इवनिंग में जाके जितने भी लोग इंजर्ड हुए थे ना बल्ब से, जो ट्यूब टूटने से, उन सबको इकट्ठा किया। नेक्स्ट डे मॉर्निंग में उनकी मॉर्निंग परेड कराई। इफ यू डोंट हैंडल द bulb in a proper way, like in a newborn baby, like holding from the backside rather than holding from the neck, you will have this kind of injuries. And he had, you won't imagine, every 1 month, all the new joinees also be part of this parade. Over a period of time, this rejection rate has come less than 0.5%, because people seeing is believing. They saw that if we don't follow, this kind of accidents can happen. It can cut you. It can allow you to have stitches around. It will be very painful. And people got very, very sensitive about this, thinking that this is how not to be done, and this is how it is to be done.
That's very powerful. No, thanks for sharing.
So this is a visual or a display learning, microbyte, or very, very what we call visual impact.
Yeah. So let me change gears, Deepak ji. It's the world of AI. AI is making a huge impact in all different spaces that you can imagine, right? Now we were talking. I'll go back to the same process, productivity, performance. Now AI can only replicate or quantum, replicable use cases. So I think it can work beautifully on the process and the productivity side of it. But what you're talking about, the vision, the purpose, the why, the how, that may or may not be taken care of by the AI. So do you think that having AI being brought in into manufacturing will solve the performance problem, or it is still not going to do it, and you still need to think about it creatively, have the human involved, have the leadership be more strong, have the manager's capability being built, and only then it can be solved? What is your take on this?
I'm very clear onto that AI is a boom. AI is a boom, and it is likely to be there, and it is really helpful for the organization to take care of the routine work, the replica work, routine work, and going forward, maybe the robots or the agents is going to replace the human beings, for that matter. It's going to be very, very interesting. Either you have to change your mindset and get into the thinking mode or the ownership mode, right? And ask few important elements, which is very, very important, like what has changed. Get into the thinking mode, right? If I do this, what will be the change? How it will be make my life better? How the impact is likely to be created? So my activity should make sure measuring activity has to be replaced by measuring impact.
Right.
Second thing is, I have to make sure that my metrics or the goals are not related to only task. It should have a leading indicators also in terms of quality, productivity, process adherence, value adherence, my behavioral change observations, and how do I lead as a leader? How do I take the ownership? तो उस एलिमेंट्स पे थिंकिंग मोड पे जब जाएंगे, ऑनरशिप मोड पे जब जाएंगे, तो ये जो रूटीन काम है अपने आप ही इट्स बीइंग टेकन केयर ऑफ. दिस इज व्हाट गोइंग टू मेक यू एम्प्लॉयबल इन द फ्यूचर. अदरवाइज यू विल नॉट बी पार्ट ऑफ दैट. सारी जिंदगी वर्कर तो आपको उससे तो निकलना ही पड़ेगा, बिकॉज वर्कर का काम तो आज की और कर रहा है, तो आपको उसको छोड़ना पड़ेगा कुछ नया करने के. आप नया क्या कर सकते हो? आपने सारी जिंदगी उस पे इंप्रूवमेंट प्रोजेक्ट पे काम करो. व्हाट वी कॉल सेल्फ डायरेक्टेड वर्क टीम्स में काम करो. आपने इंप्रूवमेंट सजेस्ट कर रहे हो, उसको इम्प्लीमेंटेशन मोड पे लेके आओ, उसका इम्पैक्ट देखो. फोकस ऑन फ्यूअर मीनिंगफुल मैट्रिक्स. पूरा 10 आइटम लेके जाओगे, कुछ नहीं होने वाला. पिक अप द टॉप 3, 80%, 20% efforts, 80% results. Identify the 20-80. Rather than putting 80% effort and 20% result, identify those 20% efforts resulting into 80% impact and focus on to that. Focus on fewer meaningful metrics. Then also apply the stop test also. What is the stop test? If I stop this activity, what is going to happen? Whether I should continue or I should discontinue. Why don't we have in a business process re-engineering processes? Define the process and see what are the stages which I can avoid because of duplication, or the stages which need not to be there. My still quality and product is not still going the same. Activity based से remove करके thinking mode में जाऊंगा, तो then I'll be able to survive. Look for the positive behavioral signal. Show where the impact is creating an effectiveness.
This is fantastic. Thank you. Please go on. You wanted to complete yourself.
So make sure that you don't only fill the calendar. Our activities only fill the calendar. Don't get into that. Make sure that whatever the small things, even if you do 10%, doesn't matter. In the whole day, you come for half an hour, but if you can create that impact, and which may move the organization, which moves the goal further. आई थिंक दैट इज व्हाट इंपॉर्टेंट इज. अब गधों की तरह 24 घंटे काम करो, कुछ नहीं होने वाला. अब 1 घंटा हॉर्स की तरह जिंदगी आपकी सफल हो जाएगी.
Right. But thank you. Thanks, Deepak. This was fantastic. Some great insight that came from you. Before we let you go, anything that I may have not covered and you think it's important for you to speak to the audience about?
Apart from that, blue collar we talked about, white collar we talked about the responsibilities, but even in the board level also, I think it is important to have discussions around, rather than what happened, we should talk why did it happen. We should talk what will happen next. We should talk more in terms of the points like, just a second, more in terms of how do I really create the organization to move forward in future. That is very, very important.
Yeah, very interesting, because sometimes we get into this whole, dissecting mode and really become critical with that, which doesn't help. So I think if we are in that insight mode, we get more out of the problems than just dissecting them all the time. Great. No, but thank you. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it, Deepak. And we're looking forward for such future conversations with you. But I think there are a lot of nuggets for our audience to pick from today's conversation, not just for manufacturing, just for understanding how this whole leadership, management, the whole interesting, distinction that you've created between process, productivity, and performance, and how getting into a little bit of nuances really help. But thank you.